Hello everybody, this is Con. I'm up here in Genting with the Horizon team. We're having a bit of a car orgy. So as shown in my previous video, I arrived up here in the Ford S-Max. That's Bing. Hi Bing! Hi! So there's the Ford S-Max. There is the Mercedes C63. There is the Volvo S90. Okay, and so next, having arrived in the Ford S-Max, I will be going home in the Mazda CX-9 right there. Okay, so the CX-9 was launched in late 2016 and was available, for the early batches were Australia spec cars, okay, especially consigned to Malaysia. The car that you see here is a Malaysian spec version, okay, in two-wheel drive, so priced at 280,000 ringgit. The four-wheel drive model priced close to 300,000 ringgit. Okay, the only difference between the two is just the drivetrain. Okay, in terms of features, which I'm listing in the description section below, both variants are the same. Okay, so the CX-9 is a large car. From front to back, it measures more than 5 meters long, and from here you also can see, okay, these rims look proportionate to the car, and they measure 20 inches in diameter. So the CX-9, it has that, that size and that presence and that stature, okay, to make a 20-inch rim feel like a proper fit to its aesthetics. Okay, now let's come to the front a bit. Okay, you can see the front, the headlights are very slim. It is small relative to the whole frontal surface area of the car. Okay, so it further adds to the sense of size of this car. The small headlamps contrasts the large gaping grille. Okay, and that long running chrome strip along the lower section of the front bumper further underlines the car's frontal face. Let's look at the doors. Keyless entry. Now you notice that one thing, as you open the doors, right? Okay, the entire door, it goes down like this. So what this and you see these are the dark plastic claddings. So the benefit of this is that, right, let's say when you're taking this car on a mud or over muddy terrain, not that most of you are likely to, but if you do take this car on a muddy terrain, all the mud that splashes out is going to kena here, okay, and it leaves this section of this section clean. So when you get in and out of the car, it does not dirty your pants or your legs. Okay, we'll explore the interior of the car later. Okay, so now you see, as I walked away from the car, right, the car locked itself. So this car, like all other Mazdas, has walk-away auto door lock. Now come look at the tail lights. Okay, from afar, these tail lights look relatively simple, but as you walk in closer, right, you notice it has very minor intricate details. So it has this line that runs across like this, and this horizontal strip, this chrome strip, it cuts into the tail light, and this part sinks in, so it has a very three-dimensional effect. Okay, it looked from afar, it looks elegant, but as you step closer, you appreciate these fine details that show that the level of attention detail that Mazda has put into this car. But as you step back overall, right, you notice that the overall design is very clean. Okay, so it gives this car an added touch of elegance, okay, that makes it not look out of place, in the company of more expensive cars, such as the Volvo S90 you see at the background with Bobby there waiting. Right, so let's get on board. Okay, so here's a quick glance of the CX-9's interior. Now let's look at the door pocket first. So we have a semi-partition compartment here. Okay, so this is your bottle holder, and then this is quite a long length of extra storage space. It extends all the way to the back of the door. Okay, then this front end is taken up by the Bose speaker set. Okay, now this section of the cabin, of the dashboard is blank, but here we have the panel of switches for the power tailgate, parking sensors, traction control, and the lane departure warning and assist systems. Okay, electric seats with memory function. So step inside. Now, as you can see, like all Mazda models that we have reviewed recently, there is a very fine selection of materials. This feels a very expensive cabin. Okay, there's very good fit and finish overall. You see the lines match up very well. The gaps are pretty close. Okay, all the materials feel good to the touch. This is soft touch plastic. This area is this lower section slightly harder grade, but still not a nasty feeling plastic at all. Okay, now this part of the dashboard, okay, this has the piano black material that is pretty decent grade. Okay, for starters, it feels of a better quality than that of the Mercedes C-Class center panel that runs along like this. So this feels like a higher grade plastic that is not so prone to dust. Let's examine the details of the cabin. Now this center stack, okay, this center screen, this is the Mazda's infotainment system. We have seen this in other Mazda cars as well. Most recently the CX-5, nothing new here. Same interface. Okay, there is this rotary control knob, and also there's a touchscreen function. The touch function is of course disabled when the car is on the move for safety reasons. So when the car is moving, your only interaction with the infotainment is via the rotary knob, right? And the instrument cluster, this looks exactly the same like any other Mazda instrument cluster. Looks very nicely finished. This brushed metal surface looks particularly expensive, and this is a rather high resolution color display. But the only thing is that this day and age where most other car manufacturers have virtual instrument clusters where the whole thing is an LCD panel, this is starting to look a little old school. But in terms of legibility, no fault lah. Looking at the storage spaces, let's move this trans. So this is a deep storage compartment. Okay, it's deep. You can drop like your touch and go, your smart tag, your mobile phone there. Okay, and this is a pair of deep cup holders. Center console box opens sideways, with exposing two USB ports and an SD card slot. So, but it's not particularly deep per se, but looks like it can store a useful amount of items. Glove compartment, decently sized glove compartment, but nothing special. Coming up here, sunglass holder. As you can see, it's very bright here. There is a panoramic sunroof. This opens and closes manually, but the glass panel is powered opening. One more thing. There is a neatly placed 12-volt socket right at the foot of the center console by the passenger side. And it's an unusual location to place a 12-volt socket, but it's close enough to the windscreen that if you still have any of those old-fashioned GPS or dash cam or whatever, it is still in the convenient enough location where you can just pull your wire and plug the socket in. So now we move to the back seat. Okay, before we come on board, the middle row seats feature forward, backward adjust. The seats on the right, okay, is adjusted at to the furthest back position. The one on the left can be moved further forward, but this is the position I've set it to be where the passenger still has a reasonable amount of leg room. Okay, so let's get inside. Okay, but first we look at the door pockets. You can see there's an indentation here for you to park, say, a canned drink or a bottle, and then this is the entire length of the door pocket, stretching from just behind of the speaker all the way to the trailing edge of the door. Close the door, so you can see there's a sunshade here which you can raise. Okay, pretty much like a luxury car. And now, so from here you can see there is an ample amount of leg room, okay, with the middle row seat pushed furthest back. Okay, and this seat pockets. Oh, this is brilliant. So you have one seat pocket here and another seat pocket here. So you got double the seat pockets, and it's available with both driver and passenger side seats. Rear aircon vents with dedicated climate control. Just to demonstrate to you, this is the forward adjusting motion. You can push this all the way to the front, but let me push this back lah. And there's this foldable armrest here in the middle, where with this lid that you can lift up, cup holder here. This is a rather flat storage area with, interestingly, two USB ports. Okay, 2.1mm USB ports for you to charge your mobile devices. And move to the middle. Okay, all three passengers have middle row belts. For the middle passenger, the belt comes out from the seat back, so it's a convenient one action to belt up. Yep, pretty convenient. Okay, now let's move to the back row. Okay, now, so to access the third row, you pull this lever, push this forward, so you can see plenty of room to get in. Right. Okay, so let's close the door. Right, so at the back here, you can see that I have ample amounts of room. Okay, leg room, headroom. Okay, this is of course due to the rather large body of this car lah. Whereas you would expect, thigh support is not brilliant, but because it's spacious enough, right? So this is good. This is comfortable enough for you to travel from, say, KL to Klang maybe, but I wouldn't push it all the way to Penang, like, if you get what I mean. Okay, and either side there are these cubby holes for you to put your small items here and here. One thing, today is a very hot day, okay, and yeah, it's feeling a little warm at the back here. At present, these seats are not at the furthest back, so let's see how much room do I have when I have this row of seats furthest forward, furthest back. So I've just adjusted this row of seats. I've just pushed this row of seats back, and as you can see, it's still not too cramped back here. Okay, let's explore the back. Okay, so let's look at the boot. Now, as you can see, despite having all three rows of seats up, there is still a decent amount of cargo room, which you can put your groceries, maybe your kids' school bag. So this little coil mat here is compliments of Burma's. Does not come from the factory, I believe. Okay, so you can raise this boot floor to reveal the space saver spare tire. Now inside, this is interestingly packaged. It's a subwoofer packaged within the spare tire. So if you were to change the spare tire, you actually have to remove this floorboard, remove the subwoofer, then take this space saver spare tire out and do all the process of changing the tires and all that. And after that, right, then you have to wonder, where is your full-size tire that just punctured going to go? Can that space fit a full-size tire? I'm not so sure about that. So I'm guessing if I were to have a punctured tire with this car, I'll probably call a tow truck. So the rest of the compartment, there are two shopping hooks, one here and one here. Though interestingly, right, these hooks, they fold upwards, so I suppose you just lift this up to hang your things, and then as it comes down, you just hook like that. Okay, and this side there is a 12-volt socket for you to charge your electrical items. Now the release of these seats, this lever here, you pull this once to drop the headrest, you pull this again to push the seat down. Okay, push the seat down. So this is the cargo room that you have with the third row seats down. pretty decent amount of space, and you can actually push the middle row seats back, okay, to maximize your cargo room. So you have to push this to the back, push this. Alright, so this is what you have with the middle row seats pushed furthest back. You can fold the middle row seat down, but because there is no remote release, you have to do it back the old-fashioned way. There's this lever here which you can pull, and the middle row seat collapses. Okay, you drop this. Right, so this gives you a through loading floor, but notice that there's a little canyon here, a little crevice here. So it's not exactly a flat loading floor, but at least, right, this transition from here to here is smooth. So if you put a big object, it can properly rest on the seats. So things may actually drop through the floor here. But overall, from here you can see it's a decently sized boat. So once upon a time, Mazda actually stated that they were not going to pursue the forced induction route simply because they believe that Europe's current trend of downsized turbocharged engines, and they were eventually proven correct, okay, does not deliver real world fuel efficiency the way it does in the test labs. So Mazda is convinced that its range of naturally aspirated SkyActiv engines will do the trick, in meeting head-on ever-tightening emission regulations. And they were right, until the time came to develop this baby. Okay, now this is a much larger car than any of the CX-5 or the Mazda 6. This is an entirely different size of car altogether, and even the largest NA engine of the SkyActiv family certainly could not provide enough power and torque to move this along in a graceful and effortless fashion. So hence it was decided to give this car a turbocharged engine. Of course, you may ask, what about a diesel? And yes, a diesel will be a good solution, but the markets which this car is aimed at, okay, this is aimed at the proper luxury market. You need a petrol alternative, and the SkyActiv-G 2.5T is supposed to answer that question. Okay, but as we all know, okay, turbo engines inevitably have lag, and that is the number one thing that kept Mazda away from doing turbos initially when they embarked on the SkyActiv project, but eventually they relented. So before they were willing to embrace turbocharging, Mazda was determined to explore, okay, new approaches to turbocharging technology in a manner that eliminates lag. Okay, and the solution that Mazda found for the SkyActiv turbo engine was to use dynamic pressure turbo. Now this is, don't confuse this for the variable geometry turbochargers that are out there in the market right now. Mazda's solution is entirely unique, but it is also astonishingly simple. So as we all know, the turbocharger works by using airflow from the exhaust to spin a turbine, which in turn compresses air coming into the engine and ram that compressed air down the engine's throat. Okay, now the problem with this approach is that in order for the turbine to work, you need time to build up that pressure from the exhaust side in order to be able to spin the turbine enough to comprise a meaningful volume of air to a meaningful level of pressure going into the combustion chamber. So Mazda's solution is, okay, pressure is force divided by area. Okay, this means area here is defined by the cross-sectional area of your flow. Okay, so this is, imagine your exhaust gas flowing as pipe. Okay, force over area, that area will be the cross-sectional area of the pipe. So dynamic pressure turbo works by compressing that, by squeezing that area, that cross-sectional area, forcing the gases, okay, despite flowing a low volume of gas from the exhaust at low RPMs, to flow at high pressure. Okay, which is a brilliantly simple, brilliantly elegant solution. And I can tell you, okay, even if you do not understand all that tech talk that I just gave you, right, I can just tell you one thing: it works. Because I've just come from the Ford S-Max. The S-Max has a 2-liter engine, boosted to run 240 horses, 345 Newton meters of torque. The CX-9 here, 228 horsepower, 420 Newton meters of torque. So you can see immediately, right, that this one, okay, the CX-9 here, this 2.5 engine, bigger capacity yet lower outputs than S-Max. It's quite obvious that this is running a much lower boost than the Ford EcoBoost engine. So when you step on the throttle of the S-Max, right, when you go pedal to the metal, the S-Max experiences a noticeable delay and then punches you hard. Whereas this one, the CX-9, you step on it, immediately you feel that acceleration, but it is not as forceful as what the S-Max delivers. Okay, so it is of course a question of preference, but I would reckon that, you know, in cut and thrust traffic, okay, you need that instantaneous response a bit more than you need absolute hard-hitting punch. Because if your throttle response, okay, is delayed by half a second, 1 second, it makes your estimation for overtaking a whole lot more difficult. Means that when you see an overtaking gap on the fast lane, right, you need to factor in that delay in your throttle response, okay, as you determine when exactly do you step on the accelerator. And if you step ngam ho at the right time, at that time as the gap comes to you, by the time your car accelerates, right, the other car behind is already closed in the gap. So perhaps Mazda's approach is a more usable day-to-day approach. Okay, so overall, right, I would say despite being a good 10 horses down from the S-Max, the CX-9's engine and drivetrain is a far more refined and far more usable unit than the Ford 2-liter powertrain. In terms of handling, the CX-9 is quite obviously set up to be more of a dignified highway cruiser than it is a spirited backroad car. Okay, this is of course not to say that it is in any way shoddy in its handling. It is not. But compared to the S-Max that I previously drove, definitely nowhere near as agile. The body movements around corners as you chuck this around bends, way more pronounced. Okay, grip levels from the tires also noticeably lower, but directional high-speed stability is very good. I would say that if you have the money, go for the all-wheel drive version, because this front-wheel drive model, okay, there were a number of occasions where in low grip conditions, the front wheels seem to struggle to put the engine's power down to the road. So like I've mentioned in my review of the CX-5 diesel, for an SUV with this kind of power outputs, I would say the smart money is to go all-wheel drive. So other aspects of the driving experience, ride comfort is good despite running on 20-inch tires. I have not encountered any situations which suspension did not cope with it in a nasty manner, and this car also runs on a passive suspension setup, so that's doubly good. Okay, as I mentioned in my review of the S-Max, it is not often these days we come across cars running passive suspension setup that both handle well and at the same time ride comfortably. Okay, so overall, the CX-9 is not a cheap car. Okay, at 280,000, it is Mercedes GLC 200 by me. But if you can get over the badge, you are definitely getting a way more car in the CX-9 here for the same amount of money than you are in the GLC 200. Okay, you get a more powerful engine, you get better features. You may even argue that the CX-9's build quality is better than the Mercedes. Yeah, you're definitely getting a bigger car, more seating capacity. You get keyless entry for starters. Okay, the Mercedes GLC 200 at the same price as this car does not have keyless entry. So this is another plus point for the CX-9. Okay, the only question is, how much of a badge snob are you? Because if you were to park this in next to, say, a company of, say, a Volvo XC90, a Mercedes GLC, BMW X3, Audi Q5, the CX-9 is not going to look cheap at all. It looks very, very at home in this company. And if you were to drive this to a 5-star hotel, you valet park this right at the lobby. This car looks and feels right at home. Even though Mazda is not quite in the same league as the Germans with regards to, you know, outright brand snob value, the CX-9, right, has all the credentials of being a proper luxury vehicle. Whether you think of it performance, features, build quality, the CX-9 does a good job at it. It does a convincing job as a proper luxury vehicle. Yeah, you know, with the S-Max, there are a lot of people who would say, hey, I can't justify spending 240,000 on a Ford. Fair enough. But with the CX-9, right, I am not so sure I will receive the same kind of complaints. There will be some, yes, there will be those who still go for the GLCs and X3s of the world. But I believe if you were to pick this over the equivalent GLC or X3, you are not going to get any kind of why questions. People are not going to ask, why did you pick this? This is a properly legitimate choice for anybody shopping at that budget. So, do you agree with my assessment? Let me know. Drop me a line in the description section. Yeah? So, until the next video, thanks for watching. Bye for now.